My friend sent me a brand new queen bee with a few attendant bees so that I could replace the other queen bee that I have in one of my beehives. I have to replace her because the old queen bee that I have in the hive, she is not laying eggs. So I'm going to put this queen bee into that hive. But it's not the easiest process. There are a few steps. The first step is I have to go into the beehive and remove the old queen bee and put her in a queen cage. And then I'm going to give that queen to my other friend. As you see that brown thing on the edge, that's called a pollen patty. It's basically a cake of pollen placed there to feed the bees. And in the middle, you'll see all where I'm putting the smoke is to make the bees go inside the hive. The hive, there's the box that goes on the outside, and inside the box are frames. And those frames are what the bees fill with wax. They build wax cells so they can birth new bees and then make honey eventually. I have to pull the frames out to locate the queen bee. The problem with this hive is that you'll see in the middle, those frames, they've built wax on them. But all the other frames have almost no wax, and they're not laying eggs, so the colony is getting smaller. So that's why we're going to replace the queen. See, that frame had no wax. This frame has very little wax. You can see that they're building up wax a little bit.
Looking for the queen. Sorry, guys. Crappy. Fully.
And on this next frame, you'll see the queen. Watch closely.
Looking for the queen.
A dot was put on the queen so you could find her easy. Can you see her? Now the trick is to catch her and then remove her from the hive and put her in the queen cage. The reason we're removing her is she's not laying many eggs. Before we remove the queen from the hive, we're going to put this frame back in so the queen can stay in the hive until I've checked for eggs to make sure that she isn't properly laying. We don't want to remove her unless we have to, as that's very stressful to the bees. So we'll put her back for now. Normally the queen will lay hundreds of eggs that turn into larvae, which hatch into bees on a single frame. However, she only laid 10. The bees don't only make wax, they also make propolis, which actually glue. and it really sticks the frames together.
Very few. Larva. 1, 2, 3.
You can hear me counting the eggs and larvae as there's very few. Let's take a closer look at the frame. You see those cells are all filled with either honey or different colors of pollen and nectar. These bees have been pretty busy gathering food so that they could feed the babies once the eggs are laid. When there is a new queen, these food stores will be used to feed larvae and help the bees reproduce. And then they'll build a bigger, stronger colony to make honey.
Nothing on those next ones. So this colony's slowly dying. So I think that queen has to go.
As you can see while I'm doing work, I talk about the situation with myself so that I can plan what I'm doing and make the right decisions that are best for the bee colony.
We're going to put these over here. And we're going to identify the queen again.
There she is. We'll put that there.
It's important to place the frame in a spot where we don't squish the bees. We don't want to injure any of them. And here I am looking for the queen. You can't see me, but I'm finding her, and I'm going to grab her. I was able to grab her by the wings. You can see her on the top left-hand corner in my fingers. I pinched her wings and held her like tiny little handles. Here's a close-up so you can see better. Holding the queen in this way does not damage her. Now we have to get her into a cage without letting go of her so she doesn't fly away.
Just pick her up by the wings, place her in there without damaging her, like so. Oh, that blew that one. Okay, then we need a few cleaners.
Along with the queen, you have to put in multiple other bees in with her. They're called attendants or cleaners. And while they're in the cage with her, they clean her and feed her, because she doesn't do that on her own because she is royalty. Catching attendant bees to go in with the queen can be difficult. And since this is my first time ever doing it, it is especially difficult because I don't want to get stung. And without gloves on, it's a difficult task.
the end of the queen's house, queen's cage. For now. Put her right there.
Here you can see the queen inside the cage on the bottom hand right corner, and she moves around quite a bit while I'm trying to find some attendant bees to place into another cage, because it's too difficult to put the queen and other bees all in one cage at one time. So I have to catch them, put them in a cage, and then we're going to have to transfer the attendant bees from their cage into the queen's cage. That is going to be a bit tricky, but we can do it. I'll show you how.
Carers for her. So how do you do that? We need to get them in there with a cap. So there's going to be our cap. And we'll deal with that after. So these we'll put here. Put that there. These guys back in. They're gonna be freaking out that the queen's gone.
So here we have multiple bees and the queen bee. Here's the queen. We have these little guys. We want the little guys to go in with the queen. So to do that, it's going to be tricky. So we put them into, we're going to join these. That's what we're going to do.
Sorry, lady. So we got transferred out of the apartment. So now we got 3 bees in one. We'll put this on there. We're creating a new design, I guess. We gotta keep her alive in case the other one doesn't make it till tomorrow. So we gotta put this one in here.
And now we have to go into the hive and place the caged queen, the new caged queen, into the hive. But we cannot release her yet. We simply will place the caged queen into the hive and let her pheromones, her smell, attract all of the bees in the hive. As you can see, the bees in this hive are quite upset as they've been without a queen for the whole day.
New queen is going to go in the hive. Is the plan.
Definitely agitate. Going to put a foundationless frame in. With the queen positioned on the frame. This guy's already
And the queen.
The bees are awaiting their new queen. They're already greeting her.
Can feel them vibrating. So we'll see how this takes.
Sorry, buddy. Oh, that's gonna have to get cut. Can't cut that tip off.
We now place the caged queen on the bottom of a foundationless frame to put in there so that the bees accept her. At this point, it seems the bees are very excitable and awaiting their new queen. Because the bees were queenless, they started cleaning out the last queen's babies and larvae. The bees on the outside are acting rather strange since they've had no queen. But hopefully soon that will be corrected when they're introduced to their new queen leader.
Let's see if they flirt.
As the bees have had the caged queen inside their hive for the last 24 hours, they should be accepting her as their new queen. So we have to crack into the hive and see how she's doing. You can see that the hive is very active now. They are awaiting the release of their new queen. And here's the caged queen with her new loyal servants. Unfortunately, the beekeeper makes a bad mistake. Since the beekeeper dropped the queen and her loyal subjects, it seems that the bees are now responding fairly frantically. You can see them flying around. As the queen is placed on top of the hive, you can see the other bees marching towards her. To me, it's clear that they have accepted their new queen. I must shake off the bees off the queen so that I can free her and introduce her to the hive. Come on, girls. Let me in there. As I have not done this procedure before, I'm taking things slow and thinking about things. And as I do that, the bees are wanting the release of their queen anxiously. Here I am trying to release the queen over some open nectar so she can take a drink right away. However, she's clutching on to the cage and not letting go. Jesus, guys. This is where the trouble starts. The queen doesn't take to the nectar, but rather she flies away. I am concerned that if I catch her in mid-flight, I may squish her or injure her. So I'm trying to push her from the air onto the comb, but then she goes the other direction, and then again in the other direction. Now I am chasing the queen back and forth. She flies and lands and flies and lands over and over. I almost had her in my hands, and then she fell near the ground but landed near the entrance of the beehive. I am concerned I am not going to be able to catch her, and that the hive is going to be queenless. Now that we have the queen, we can find a spot for her and place her in between the frames to make sure she goes down into the hive, as when she's in the hive, she will not fly away. It's always a risk when you're taking a queen and trying to put her on a flat comb. It's always best to drop her in between the frames. I only did this for the purpose of making this video. I've been told by more experienced beekeepers that the queen bee will only go on one flight after she first hatches, and then will stay in the hive forevermore.
Okay.
Now we have to get the queen bee in between these two frames and down lower so she doesn't just fly away again. We put her into the gap and then try to quickly close the space between the two frames while watching her to make sure she doesn't fly away. The frames will not squish the bees, as they're built in a way to fit together tightly and create what's called a proper bee space. Now we have to close the hive quickly so that the queen doesn't fly away by chance. And then in a couple days or up to a week, we'll come back and check the hive to see if the queen has settled in and her subjects are loyal.